Have you ever consumed things? I consume things sometimes, at a slow rate, some may say. But in fact, in April of 2026, 8 things were consumed, and in April, all 8 will be ranked this evening. Oh my goodness, I think it's the first time we've had 100% consumed to ranked ratio. But this is ranking everything I consumed in April of 2026. We're going to start out with number 8. Oh my goodness, it's a documentary. Let me tell you something, brother. If you're expecting some interesting things on this goddamn ranking, you're on the wrong business. Because these are more than 50% of this is going to be documentaries. I think it is exactly 5 out of 8 of varying quality. Now, this one is the anthrax attacks in the shadow of 9/11. My goodness, it was like later in 2001 or something. Anthrax was mailed to a bunch of places, a news station, a senator or something. They killed some people, in fact. Can you believe it? And it was in a post office place where they were handling posts and stuff, whatever they do at the post office, and a bunch of people died there. And it was kind of an interesting story, this one. We're in the, usually I say which section we're in. The first, it might literally be the first 5 things on this list. No, the first 4 things, maybe. They're all 3.5 stars, so a little below our average. The big hang up in this documentary is this documentary does something bad that actually the next documentary we'll talk about also does, which is they do reenactments, but they do them like dramatic scenes, like they're literally from a movie, and then they'll cut to documentary voiceover. It is terrible. And especially in this one where it's like, it ends up, it wasn't terrorists doing this. It was probably, now we've never gotten a definitive answer on this, but the narrative in the documentary is definitely that this wacky scientist guy that was probably like mentally ill did it, and he's got like split personality or something, and so the voices in his head tell him to do things, and sometimes he doesn't even know what he's doing. So they hire the guy that plays Agent Coulson in these Avengers movies, and he goes on screen and they do a bunch of insert shots of him like rocking back and forward, and his hands are over his head, and he's making weird noises and stuff because that's like what's going on in his head. And outside, he's a very happy, affable scientist man. And it's terrible. It's awful. Documentaries don't need to do these dramatic reenactments. You can do a reenactment like that has no acting in it. Like if it's a kidnapping thing, you can have like a guy kidnapping a little girl or something, and he's like lingering in the doorway or something as ominous. That's okay. We'll deal with that. But actual like dramatic scene readings where you had to script the whole scene and you had to do a setup and you said ready action and all, that's no good. We didn't like that. Outside of that, the story of this one was interesting because again, there was no resolution, and did you actually think this guy did it? And he was a weird guy. He would like stalk women or something a little bit, and also he tried to throw things out, and then he actually tricked the FBI because he was the expert scientist in anthrax. I don't know. It was a whole winding tale, and like with all documentaries, it's not like it was boring or anything. They're very fun to watch. They're much funner to watch than a shitty movie. But in the end, you're like, well, this is a little silly. Oh, this is a little silly. But sometimes it's fun. I didn't know anything about these anthrax attacks, and now I do. Can you believe it? I saw the footage, the news stories in 2001. I saw them filming news thingies in 2001. It's like I got a real feel for what it was like to be there, and that's what you're really after in documentaries. You want to go someplace, and I went someplace this time, and I learned about how they grow anthrax on it's like a plant or something. I don't know. It was crazy. Do you know people have there's like scientists and stuff in the world. They do things. Next one is 7, Churchill at War. This one, I don't remember that much from. And I think that's probably why when I was thinking about it recently, as in like an hour ago when I was making this PowerPoint, I put it at number 7 rather than number 6 or number 5 or something. Because the next documentary, I think, is worse in a lot of ways. But this one, it was 4 parts. They're all like an hour and 5 minutes long. It's interesting. I didn't know that much about Churchill. I didn't know he was responsible for the fuck up at Gallipoli. My goodness, can you believe this frickin' guy? It was just Anzac Day. Have some frickin' respect. And also, he was like a big racist guy. He was like, he didn't want to give away India or something, even though that wasn't a very nice thing, the English into India. And then he got bullied by I didn't know FDR was like the guy the whole time in the World War II winning. It was actually an important part. I just thought Winston Churchill did it all. Honestly, it was surprising how little I did know about World War II going into this when I was like, I'm pretty sure D-Day is supposed to happen soon, and then it all caught me off guard when it actually happened and when it didn't and stuff like that, and how like the war kind of stops and like, well, action in the war kind of stops between like 41 and 42 because Germany's just won and they're just sitting there and England can't really do shit and they're just like waiting for America to come in, and then actually I think it's probably through most of 1941, not through 1940, because Pearl Harbor happens in 1940, I think, and 41, I think. Anyway, my dates are right. I'm just saying them wrong, okay? And that's when things start to kick up. And, you know, this one has a lot of dramatic reenactments. They paid this dude to be Churchill, and he shows up every 5 minutes for a dramatic scene or a speech reading or something. It was always funny because then they would, like, intersperse it with actual footage of Churchill giving a speech. And you're like, this real Churchill guy is much cooler than this dumb actor guy you've got who feels like he's doing a caricature. But anyway, Churchill did this cool speech when he went to visit the American Congress or something, where he said, you know, if his mother was his father and his father was his mother because his mother was like American or something, this would be his place or something. And he'd be like, yes, I would run America instead because I'm the coolest guy and I run everything. And it was very funny. They all laughed and clapped for him, and it was very cute. And also, did you know, like, right after the war, he got voted out, even though he won the war, and that was pretty epic. But then, like, 10 years later, he got voted back in or something. Shit was crazy. Anyway, it was a fun story. It was just very long, and the reenactments, and there are lots of dramatic shots of him looking out at the ocean or him on the top of a building watching London get bombed or something. And, like, we cut to it so often, and every episode had a 5-minute re-intro where it was just, we've got to sped this up. There's could have been 3 episodes. Also, he was, like, in a war in, like, South Africa or something in the early 18th, no, not early 18th century. Well, it's early 20th century, right, because it's the next one, if you're doing the century thing. Anyway, I didn't know that. He was a prisoner of war and he escaped or something. Shit was crazy. Anyway, that Stalin guy was no good. That's what we learned. And neither was Hitler. It was cool that there was a bunch of Hitler speeches where he, like, mentioned Churchill. And I was like, I guess that is obvious that would have happened. But I was also like, oh, that's kind of interesting that that happened. He, like, said the word. Oh, it's always interesting because in every 30th German word is, like, an English word. And for a second, Hitler would say something in English and you'd be like, well, that's what he really sounds like? That was, like, crazy, bro. Because he said, like, obviously when he's speaking German, he sounds like a weird German guy. But then he said a word in English, and I was like, oh, he's just like a dude with a German accent. This is weird. But anyway, the most interesting part was Hitler, apparently. Oh my god, Churchill and Hitler was supposed to have a meeting, but Hitler stood him up because Churchill wasn't prime minister yet. And, you know, that was crazy. Oh, and obviously they did a dramatic reenactment of that scene. And there's, like, a Nazi rally marching down the streets, and Churchill dramatically looks out the window down at the Nazi guys and goes, because, you know, he's going to beat him later. Anyway, documentaries are silly and stupid, but I like them a lot. Now, number 6 is Inside Job. This is the silliest and most stupid documentary, but it was really entertaining, so I liked it. Now, if you'll notice, this Churchill one, 2024, this Anthrax one, 2022, most of these documentaries I'd be watching are Netflix-produced documentaries from the 2020s. We ain't watching some no old shit, but if you look down here, Inside Job is from 2010. This is an old documentary. It's from right after the thing that happened. Obviously, this is about the 2008 financial crisis. And then, obviously, this was made in 2010, so that's crazy. This is, like, a very politically charged movie, and it is very stupid in points. But, like, what did I say earlier? Documentaries aren't about, like, being smart or truthful or something. It's about taking you someplace. And I was in the 2008 financial crisis. Actually, it's, like, 2005 to 2008. And it was really cool. The documentary kind of explains why they did it. There's, like, this company that was paying off this company to tell them this other company that their company was worth more, and then they were using these thingies, and it was about home loans or something, and they were given home loans predatory or something. I remember there was a big chart. Anyway, this is where all, like, the lefty talking points for like, since this movie came out come from, where it's like, and it's also, most of the interviews in this are, like, stupidly edited, like, gotcha interviews where it's like, so you didn't know this was going to happen? And then he'll slowly escalate and repeat the question until it's more abrasive, and the guy will say, this interview is over. Get out of my office, or something. And it'll make the guy that's being interviewed that we think has perpetrated this whole thing but got off scot-free, because that's a big thing at the end of the movie. Everybody that did it got off scot-free. They were paid out millions of dollars from these companies that they never had to give back. And oh my goodness, did you know that one of the guys that was related to the guy that did it was actually in George Bush's thingy? And then Obama got elected and you thought he was going to do something, but then Obama hired another guy that used to be a guy that used to work for this company. And it's a lot of these sorts of things. And then so all the interviews are very silly because also the reaction to this documentary is so stupid. Like the letterbox comments are like, "This is the greatest piece of investigative journalism ever," or something, and they were like, "It truly made my blood boil when that guy said he had no accountability for this, and he said it wasn't a conflict of interest that he was paid by this, but also did a paper for this and something something." Also, the whole documentary opens on like an Iceland thing. It's like, oh, they did this in Iceland, and then later they did it in the US, and we should have known from back then or something. It was crazy. Anyway, it's also important that, like, certain ones of these documentaries, like the Churchill one is a 4-parter, like, TV series. I think this Anthrax one was a one-off. And this Inside Job one is also a one-off. So it's like a 1 hour and 40-minute movie. I like these one-offs, I think, better. Even though usually it's easier to convince yourself to watch like a series one because like the first episode will be like 48 minutes. You're like, I can watch 48 minutes. And you just start it up. But the longer ones end up being better, I think, just because they don't waste as much time. But anyway, this movie is silly and you shouldn't take it seriously, but it was really entertaining. And I liked seeing all the institutions, and it's like, oh my god, Goldman Sachs, that is a thing I've heard of. That's like this bank, and oh, that's what that does, or something. And then it's like all these guys. And then it's like one time, I don't know if it was Goldman Sachs, but one of the big banks you've heard of, and then like the guy that was running it had the last name of the bank, and you're like, whoa, what's like the line of succession here? Because usually when it's like Brownstein and Co., obviously Brownstein was like some guy from 1906 who like started the thing, and it's not like it stayed in the family and somebody else is a CEO, but every once in a while the guy with the name would be the CEO, and you're like, whoa, that's crazy, bro. He like did the thing. But anyway, it was fun to watch. That's the important part. And did you know those crooks on Wall Street, those crooked bankers, they fucked you over, and then the government gave them money. Can you believe it? We've been robbed. That's why we need socialism or something. Anyway, the best non-wrestling documentary of the month was this Oklahoma bombing one, American Terror. Did you know a white guy did this? That's fucking crazy, bro. That's why it's called American Terror. And not a very nice white boy. There's lots of interviews with him. There's lots of voice interviews with him they play throughout the movie, and he's a very not nice person. I'll tell you that much. But Oklahoma City bombing, American Terror. Did I already say that? 2025. This is a recent one. This is also another one-parter, right? I think so. We're still in the 3.5 stars. Though this one was the best one. I didn't know anything about this really. It's crazy. This bomb that's going off now, it was in a truck outside this building, and the whole front half of this building fell off. It was fucking crazy, bro. This was I didn't know they made bombs strong enough to do this that weren't nukes or something. But this guy just had a bomb in a truck or something that he borrowed a truck, and that's how they caught him. This dumb idiot. He like used a similar name or something. I don't think it was his name, but it was the same name he'd used to do other things in the past, so he got caught. And also, they didn't know they caught him. They arrested him for speeding, and then he was in a jail cell, and then he was going to get out. And that's why there's like a famous image of this bomber guy getting brought out of a courthouse, and he's already in his convict outfit, the like orange or whatever. But that was because he was already arrested for like speeding, and that's when they ran over to get him because they were nearly going to release him. The documentary will have you think he was 1 second from walking out the door, and they got him, but that probably wasn't the case. Anyway, the FBI showed up and they had to do some things. And then there was like, they saw a fake bomb in there, and then they had to evacuate again. That was a weird part of the documentary, but then they found out it was a fake bomb. And then, I don't know, there was a lady whose baby died in it. That was pretty upsetting. There was a lady who was like crushed and they had to get her out. That was pretty upsetting. Because this was the federal building or something, and there was a daycare on like the second floor, and all those babies died. That's pretty upsetting. And then like the audio clip from the guy who's somebody's asked him if he has any regrets that he killed all those babies, and he said, they're not the first babies to die. This is a war or something. Because it turns out this guy's not an Islamic extremist or nothing. He was like a militia guy. He thought the government was already killing people or something. And this is like Waco. That was like a thing that had happened recently. And that's when like the government, like the FBI raided a compound that had a bunch of militia guys in it. And they like killed like 50 people or something in there. And they burnt like the whole thing down or something. It was kind of crazy. But yeah, this one was kind of fun. And by fun, it was pretty freaking depressing, bro, you know? But it was entertaining, to say the least. It was a tale. Like, there was, like, 3 guys that did it, kinda, and the third guy turned on the other 2, and he, like, ratted them out, and then that's how they convicted him or something. And true. Did you know that the guy that did it was like bullied because he was tall and skinny or something, and then he went to the army, and that probably fucked him up or something. That's what the documentary was telling me at least. Now, I don't know if I've got anything else to say. Oklahoma City. Can you believe they bombed that place? That's crazy. Anyway, number 4, we've got something that isn't a documentary. Everybody's super excited. We've got The Drama from 2026. I went to the movie theater. Now, going to the movie theater was a fun time. We should do it more. I was trying to figure out an excuse to do it again, but there's no fucking movies out. I don't want to watch this shitty Ryan Gosling space movie. That shit's lame. And there's nothing else out. I'm not going to see Mario Galaxy. I'm not fucking seeing... What was the other thing? Devil Wears Prada or something. I can't go to a girl movie. Though this was kind of a girl movie. There were a lot of girls in this theater, let me tell you. Now, Robert Pattinson's in it. Oh, who are we kidding here? We love that guy. He's sexy. Look at him right there with silly Zendaya. Now, I already told this anecdote on stream, but I fucked this movie up for me. Also, we're still in the 3.5 stars category. This movie wasn't too good. But the reason why it wasn't too good is probably to do with the movie not being too good. But also, the final scene is a callback to an earlier scene. I'm going to remain vaguely spoiler-free here. Well, pretty much exactly spoiler-free. The final scene is a callback to a scene earlier in the movie. But the scene that it calls back to was one I assessed was unimportant enough that I went to piss during it. So any emotional callbacks that were supposed to be happening in that final scene were callbacks to the one scene in the movie I didn't see in totality because I had to run and piss. And these toilets were a little bit far away, There was, in fact, the girls' toilets right next to the theater, so that was unfortunate. But yeah, so I'm leaving that asterisk. But otherwise, the movie's just not that interesting. The drama is over something that I think most people are probably going to think, what are you making a big fuss about this? And that's kind of annoying. There are some interesting things. It's kind of cute in parts. It has a lot of like awkward stuff in it. Like it's kind of going for that, which is never my favorite stuff. I was kind of interested in this because it was Zendaya and it was a romance and it was A24. And Challenges is like one of my favorite movies ever. It has like none of the... It's completely different from Challenges. You shouldn't go in expecting that. And I knew that, but like I was like, oh, maybe it'll be good in a different way. But I didn't really think so. I was not too big of a fan of the drama. And it doesn't seem like most people are too big of a fan of this movie either. I don't think this is getting the Oscar nom this time next year or whatever. But true. It was a fun day out to go to the movies. Can you believe it? Yeah, I don't think I got nothing else more to say. Zendaya was pretty good in the movie. Robert Pattinson was a little less good, I think. There's that really sexy girl in the movie. I liked her. And there were some annoying friends that were annoying. So that was pretty cool. And something. No spoilers here. And then we're moving on to the greatest documentary of the month, the great Hulk Hogan Real American documentary that recently came out. I think it came out this month. Well, I guess the drama probably came out this month too. Oh, maybe last month. Netflix did a big Vince McMahon documentary. It was very successful. It was really awesome. So I think the next one they decided to do is this Hulk Hogan one. I don't know if it's the same team. It doesn't really feel like it. These are very different documentaries. Hulk Hogan is similarly a controversial figure. He did say the N-word and say that he thinks everybody is racist deep down and he hates them N-words. So that was not very nice, Hulk Hogan, when you said that on your sex tape that got leaked. But he never sex trafficked nobody. So he is significantly less bad than Vince McMahon, I would say, and I think that's reflective in the documentary. This documentary really doesn't spend any time on that. Like, the sex tape thing is more about him suing Gawker and his, like, privacy being invaded rather than the racism stuff. So that was kind of a funny thing. I honestly didn't know that much about Hulk Hogan personally until this documentary. And this documentary is very much about him personally. It's not really, like, wrestling is obviously a massive part of this, of every part of the documentary. It's very intertwined, but it's not like a lot of wrestling stories. It is a lot of, like, personal stories. And there are a lot of Hulk Hogan interviews from, like, right before he died, which are cool. You definitely come away liking, well, at least for me, because I've never really liked Hulk Hogan at all. I don't like him as a wrestler. As a person, he seemed funny. Like, people make fun of him notoriously for lying a whole bunch. He honestly didn't come off like he was lying too much in this documentary, so that was interesting. But you definitely come away, liking him or appreciating him or, like, relating to him more, feeling more sorry for him, all these sorts of emotions. There's 4 parts, I believe. A lot of early stuff that I'd never like heard or seen about him or whatever. I didn't know his brother died or whatever and all that stuff. Um, a lot of it is about his kids and his marriage, which is funny because Brooke Hogan, his daughter, who is the one that was actually involved in wrestling for a little while, is like not in this documentary at all, and I think they had a fight or something. She was in TNA, of course. She was married to Bully Ray. Great storyline, you know. Aces and eights, who can forget? But yeah, all very interesting insights and a bunch of stuff. A lot of it is about his marriage to his first wife, and the third wife gets a lot of playtime too. The second wife was not in it at all and was barely even mentioned. So I don't know what was going on there. But there are also some emotional beats, like the first scene is like of him and his son working out in his private gym, and then one of the last scenes is the son working out and they're talking about how much he misses him by himself because he's fucking dead. There are little emotional bits like that. I think it was a fun time, this Hulk Hogan documentary. It doesn't have any of the appeal of the Vince stuff, because all the Vince stuff was like, whoa, never before seen. Vince McMahon doing an interview? That's crazy. Hulk Hogan does a shit ton of interviews. He always has. But it's like all-encompassing. It's got that Netflix shine on it. It's got that Netflix girth to it, for lack of a better word, where they like can source all these clips from all these different things. And it's pretty cool, bro. And anyway, Hulk Hogan, they interviewed a bunch of really important people. They honestly didn't there was like a whole Kevin Nash interview part, and like he was up in the documentary for like 2 seconds. Also, they filmed at his funeral, which was kind of crazy, which is maybe the most recent footage we've seen of Vince McMahon, because Vince McMahon was there and was giving a speech. So that's kind of crazy. But the documentary was really good. It wasn't as good as the Vince McMahon one, I'll say that much. But it was a nice follow-up, I guess. I don't know if they'll do a Ric Flair one or something in the future, but I'd watch it. It's pretty cool. And it seemed to do relatively well on Netflix. I saw people talking about it. And it is funny. A lot of the talk people have coming out of this is just about how much his first wife was very in love with Hulk Hogan. And she was very horny for him, even in the documentary a little bit. So that was funny. Anyway, number 2 and number 1 are Revolutionary Girl Utena the movie, 1999, and Revolutionary Girl Utena the TV show, 1997. Now, I am a coward for putting the movie in second, and I did consider it for a second, putting it number 1, because Anthe is so cool in this fucking movie. And then you look at this lame Anthe over here, who's lame and no good and not good at anything. We've jumped. The Hulk Hogan thing was a 4 out of 5. We've jumped to a 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. Our third and fourth ones of the year rather. Very exciting stuff. Utena, I mean, there are hours and hours of discussion about Utena on the Ordinary RE channel. It's no surprise to anybody. Boundless creativity, very interesting things, great presentation, terrific songs, an interesting, compelling story, some themes you got to think about a little bit, some subversive little thingies here and there, some incredible motifs. You got to go in the car and you got to hear that music and you got to do a flip over it shirtless and do a sex pose. It's pretty epic. These girls be fucking at the end of Revolutionary Girl Utena. You didn't expect that, but it happened, and that was crazy. And the movie was really cool, bro. You gotta watch that freaking movie. It was just as good. But this is the order we've ended up in. Revolutionary Girl Utena is everything you heard, and more. Oh, my goodness. That being said, actually, we can get into it in the next slide. It is on the low end of a 10 out of 10, I think. It's not like my new favorite anime. It's probably like 5th out of my top 5, right? Hold on, let's go through it. Because I was just thinking, I probably like Lane better than Utena, I would say. And I can't remember if Lane is number 4 or number 5 on the top 5. So at number 1, we've got Evangelion. Number 2, we've got Black Lagoon. Number 3, we've got Die Buster. Then it's probably Lane, Utena, but you've also got to throw Naruto Shippuden into the mix. And those are probably my 6 top 10 anime. So it probably is 5th, but that depends how slow the beginning of Naruto Shippuden is. We got to wait and see with that shit. But yes, I've talked a lot about Revolutionary Girl Utena. If you want to hear more about it, you know where to go. And here we have the ranking. In blue are all the things that were added this month. Now, a lot of these, everything above Florence is the 3 out of 5 or below section. I put the Anthrax documentary beneath Togepi's Original Sin, but I put the rest of them above it, just because watching it was funner than watching Togepi's Original Sin. And I forget I watch Togepi's Original Sin sometimes. No, I'm not dissing anything or anything. And then I put the drama above Florence. Actually, I think the drama I have is a 4-star thing now. And I think it is 4-star because I think Florence is 4-star, but I do think the drama was more fun and interesting than Florence. But again, these are kind of low 4s because Akira is there, and I didn't really like that moving forward. And then we all the way up. It's the Hulk Hogan documentary is a top tier 4 I've got here. I put it beneath the Big Lebowski, but above the Paris documentary, the most depressing documentary of all time. Nuremberg, Limbo, Astrobot, Ninja Scroll, Anne Roger, Ball X Pit, Pokemon Forever, Pokemon Fire Red. These are all things. Actually, we went into the 9 out of 10s for a second there. It is interesting because Industry is sitting there at number 5, but I would probably say, thinking about it more now, that like season 1 and 2 of Industry and most of season 3 are probably like my favorite thing I've consumed all year. And I probably do like them more than Succession. I probably do like them more than Utena, and I probably do like them more than The Hedge Knight. Season 4, I don't like season 4 of that show at all. Well, not really. There's I probably like 35% of it. But 15? No, it's probably more than that because I really hate the main plotline of that season. So yeah, poor Industry. If only it had been good the whole time. Succession is really great, but again, it is a lower 10 out of 10. Utner is a lower 10 out of 10, and even The Hedge Knight is probably a lower 10 out of 10. A Game of Thrones is better than The Hedge Knight. And I'm assuming Clash of Kings is probably better than The Hedge Knight. Is Fire and Blood better than The Hedge Knight? I don't know, but Fire and Blood would similarly be a low 10, I think. But that is it. It is... Because I am still, I'm waiting for my new favorite thing to appear, and it will eclipse The Hedge Knight. It'll be a true top-tier 10 out of 10. Maybe it's Recreators. Maybe it's one of those other things that I've already started. Though probably not, because if I had already started them, I probably would have gotten a hint that it was already a 10 out of 10. So now that's actually pretty depressing. Though I don't know, The Great Gatsby could be a 10 out of 10. I don't know, that was a fun first chapter of a book. Mario Galaxy, we're still early days there. That's a possibility. I don't think The Order 1886 is going to be a great 10 out of 10. You shouldn't underestimate these things. Anyway, Pokemon Champions, now that's a 10 out of 10 if you smell what I'm cooking. Anyway, that's it. Not too much interesting to rank. We'll be back next time. So stay tuned for that. Oh my god, how many times is it going to fake hit the wall in my ear like that? Alright, we'll see you back in May. April's gone I guess in June, actually, for the Reflecting on May. Support links in the description below. Thanks.